How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today I get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is the western suburbs of the Denver metro area, a part of town that I grew up in, a part of town that I still live in today, and we're going to talk all about the pros and cons and where I'd actually live in those suburbs. We're starting right now. Alright, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett, and listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around the Denver metro area and the Colorado Front Range, this is definitely the channel for you. So you're going to want to click on that subscribe button and notification icon as I drop new videos for you each and every week. And as much as I try to be informative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and teaming with some of the state's most talented realtors. And we are helping people move here each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person, answer your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails there, when and if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is the western suburbs of Denver, pros, cons, and where I'd actually live. So this video stems from dozens upon dozens of conversations with people who are thinking about moving to Denver, but they're a blank canvas. They're not really sure. They may have some familiarity with Denver, but they don't know what suburbs to look at. They're not really sure what part of town they might want to live in. And so this is the first of a series. We're going to take these suburbs in the various directions of Denver and give you an overview, a quick pros and cons, some boots on the ground experience within these suburbs. And then certainly I have already or will be making specific detailed information about the suburb itself. So if you get a glance at one in this video and you like it, certainly there's more detailed videos about it that I've created or again will be creating in the next week or two. So in this video, we're going to cover the major suburbs of western Denver. We are going to exclude a couple such as Evergreen. Sorry for those of you who are looking for Evergreen, Colorado, but I feel like Evergreen is a bit farther out from the city. We're looking at suburbs that are really, 20, 25, 30 minutes tops from Denver or closer. And I'm also going to cover 3 suburb/large scale neighborhoods within suburbs that are very popular. And while 2 of them are not necessarily their own suburb, they are kind of considered their own entity, if you will, within their suburb. So we begin our quick overview with Wheat Ridge, Colorado, located due west of Denver. I don't really know why I keep saying Colorado after the name of the town. You know it's in Colorado. But Wheat Ridge, to me, has one of the best locations you could possibly ask for. You are 15 minutes from downtown, you have a quick drive to the mountains, and you are located within walking, if not a quick bike ride, over to neighborhoods like Sloan's Lake and Highlands. Wheat Ridge, if you can use the term affordable, also has some of that going for it, both for buying homes and renting. It has a nice variance of new construction, has some older neighborhoods, so it has some of that old Denver school vibes, along with some new construction to look at. And it's got some great parks and green belts. You've got Crown Hill Park, you've got Clear Creek Trail nearby, so a lot of outdoor areas to get to. And I said I would tell you, pros and cons of this. So some of the cons, you get some patchwork development in Wheat Ridge. Some blocks are really charming, and then you go another block and it feels kind of neglected or industrial. You have a limited retail core there. You have a few distinct hangout hubs, but compared to the other suburbs, just not quite as much. Now, Wheat Ridge is on the smaller side of these other suburbs we're going to talk about. So I think they kind of balance the bang that you get for your buck within that area, but they're not going to have as much to offer as some of these bigger suburbs will cover. And then a couple other minor nuances. Traffic on Wadsworth can be annoying. I think that will improve. There is some work occurring on Wadsworth, which is one of our bigger north-south service roads. That work has been going on for many months. I'm sure you're familiar with that in different towns that you've lived in. So that adds some traffic congestion. And then you have some aging housing stock. You have some neighborhoods within Wheat Ridge that were developed just after World War II, a lot of them in the 50s, and that aging housing stock and those neighborhoods haven't necessarily been kept up the best. Personally, as I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of Wheat Ridge for a couple reasons. I love its location. That grows on me more and more. And I also like that 38th Avenue corridor. So along 38th, between Wadsworth and Kipling, ton of shops, different bakeries, a lot of independently owned businesses there. So kind of their industrial hub, if you will, or their commerce hub, I should say, there along 38th Avenue. Up next, northwest of Denver, little north of Wheat Ridge, and some overlap there is Arvada. So when I think of Arvada, and a lot of people do, you think of Old Town Arvada. That is the historic downtown district for Arvada. A few different blocks that are closed off to driving. It's pedestrian traffic only. Shops, restaurants, ice cream shops, just a great place to be outdoors and enjoy. And Old Town Arvada just has a great vibe to it. It's also home to a light rail station, so if you are in or around that downtown Arvada area, the light rail could be very convenient for you to get down into the city. Location wise, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme in this video, again, quick access to the mountains. You can get downtown pretty quickly. From Arvada, you're usually going to jump on I-70 and wrap around to the northern side of Denver, but quick access there. Easy to jump on I-25 from I-70. You have all of those things, but that location being pretty primo. And Arvada offers like as diverse a living option ability as you will find. It's got, you know, older homes, some great communities that were built decades ago, some history to it, and then you have a ton of new development, especially the farther west and northwest you go in Arvada, the more some of these new residential areas are popping up. And Arvada is continuously rated very high on these livability charts when people are talking about the quality of life, their walkability, access to things. I'm gonna pound the drum on certain things repeatedly throughout this video. Arvada is filled with green space. It's filled with parks and outdoor. And that's not to say that other suburbs of Denver aren't, but Arvada, you know, you have the mountains right there. There's a ton of trails. There's just a lot to do outside. Now, some of the cons of Arvada is that it's sprawling. You'll hear locals call it Farvada, and that's as you start to go northwest Arvada, it just goes and goes and goes. And what might look like an extra 5-minute drive suddenly turns into an additional 15, 20 minutes after you've already been in Arvada. So that can sprawl a bit. Traffic, as I mentioned with Wheat Ridge, and I bring up Wadsworth again, but you do have some construction occurring now, and it just seems like Arvada is always kind of messing with their roads. I think when it comes to traffic, you're mainly just dealing with the fact that it's a service road. That you might be going a long distance on a road that's gonna have lights, that where your top speed limit is gonna be 45 miles an hour, that sort of thing. In certain areas of Arvada, you'll deal with some older infrastructure, you know, sewers, streets, things of that nature, but we're also complaining about some of these updates they're making, which are dealing with that infrastructure, so some give and take. And then listen, by far, the biggest con, if you will, of Arvada is going to be Rocky Flats. And this depends on the person, because there are some people who do not care, and there are some people it is going to be a hard stop. I'm gonna allow you to do your own due diligence on Rocky Flats. I will tell you that in our history, it was a nuclear site. They created nuclear missile triggers there, and there's, you know, plenty of news on it. I could spend a 30-minute video talking about Rocky Flats, and like I said, some people still live in and near these communities, and some people, and I've dealt with both sides of this, say nope, hard stop, we're moving on from Arvada, or at least that area of Arvada. But it is, if we're gonna talk about a con, that tends to be people's biggest. For me, listen, I think Old Town Arvada is one of the most fascinating areas of the Denver metro area, period. My wife and I, we have conversations about what we would do, what parts of town we would live in if we moved. And there's always kind of this dream. Another one of our suburbs we'll get into here in a moment is Littleton, but we talk about Old Town Arvada and how amazing that would be to have that downtown community. I would certainly take a look at it. And one thing you may have noticed, and this is a little different when I get to some of these smaller communities towards the end of the video, but I'm not talking about schools in this one because most of these suburbs we are talking about, with the exception of maybe Littleton, are covered by Jefferson County schools. You're gonna do your own individual due diligence on specific schools, but when we're talking about these large suburbs, you're gonna have varying schools. You're gonna have some great schools, you're gonna have some average schools, and you're gonna have some poor schools. It's going to happen. So to say just surface level, all of these suburbs we're mentioning have, again, overall highly rated schools. I just didn't want to pound that drum on each suburb telling you, yep, this suburb has a good rating, this suburb has a good rating, when in general, depending on where you are in the suburb, you're going to want to take a look at the schools in that specific area. Next up on the list, my haunts, Lakewood, Colorado. That's where I live. That's where I grew up. Of course, moved away for several years in the military, but after coming back, still call Lakewood home. Lakewood is located due west of Denver, up 6th Avenue, primarily coming out of Denver. Easily one of Lakewood's biggest pros is that location, is the fact that we have Denver on one side, we basically have the Rocky Mountains on the other. We have as quick access to either as you could want. From my house, not too far from Belmar, I can get to downtown Denver in 10 to 15 minutes, and I can get to the mountains in roughly 15 minutes as well. Lakewood is home to green space galore. I'm not too far from Belmar Park. There are 99 parks in the town of Lakewood, including William Hayden Park with Green Mountain, which has acres and acres of trails. It's great for running, mountain biking, you name it. We also have Bear Creek Lake Park, outstanding, a couple great golf courses, just a lot to do there. Among the more popular things about Lakewood is going to be Belmar itself, which is a revitalized area. It's been around for a decade plus now, almost 2 decades because I'm getting old. A large walkable mall, a lot of shops, a lot of different things to do there. And Lakewood will have a vast variety of housing stock. So basically, the closer you go to Denver, the older the neighborhoods get. You get to get that urban suburban feel. Farther west you move in Lakewood, the newer the homes are. So you have these homes closer to Denver that were built in the 50s and 60s. You get out towards where I am, or in areas like Green Mountain, probably a little farther west than I am, where most of the properties were built in the 70s and 80s. And then you get to communities like Solterra, which we'll talk about, where most of those homes were built post 2000 and continue to be built today. Now, the knocks on Lakewood, and I didn't have to look these up, they are my own. Lakewood doesn't have a downtown. Belmar is great, but it doesn't have that centralized heart of the town downtown. Really wish we had that, and that's something that they talk about developing, but where they would do it, I'm not sure. Second is these uneven aesthetics, and you're gonna hear that on the west side of town. You hear it in Wheat Ridge, you hear it somewhat in downtown Arvada, and Lakewood is like that because of how these suburbs were built. They weren't really master planned, they weren't really thought through. So what you're going to find in northwest Lakewood, especially along our Colfax route, is just vastly different than what you're gonna see, again, in a Green Mountain, in a Belmar, in a Solterra. That corridor of Colfax will always have kind of a stigma to it. There's no question about it. The closer you get to Colfax, that road is home to a bad reputation, even if it's sometimes not deserved, and also some of the best restaurants you'll ever eat at, so give and take. And then zoning headaches. So when it comes to Lakewood, one of our biggest hits is the fact that there's not a lot of new development here. Lakewood has a rule that is thankfully going away soon, that you could only build 1% of the current housing stock in new houses, and that really stunted development here. And because of Lakewood's already developed areas, the only new development area you'll really see is down towards Solterra. So that is heading west up towards Morrison and along C470, one of our highways, is where you'll see a lot of new development. You will not drive through Lakewood and see a lot of new construction. You won't see homes that have been knocked down and rebuilt, which some people love and some people hate, but you won't see a lot of that in Lakewood. You'll really see that stunt in development. Do I love Lakewood? Obviously. Again, it's where I grew up, it's where I live now. Would it be my absolute favorite suburb? If it had a downtown, I think so. Do I think I will remain where I live for the rest of my life? Probably. Would I move to an old town Arvada? Would I move to a downtown Littleton? Would I move to closer to downtown Golden? Perhaps. Which leads me to Golden. And I'm doing my best not to say Colorado after I say a city name. So located further west of Denver, west of Lakewood. You keep heading west on 6th Avenue through Lakewood, you eventually get into Golden. And Golden, often nicknamed Baby Boulder, is as picturesque a town as you get. That beautiful downtown scene, Washington Avenue, with the Welcome to Golden sign, the mountains in the background, majestic to say the least. So for Golden, you've got natural beauty, you've got Red Rocks access, you've got Table Mountain views, you've got just the full Rocky Mountain backdrop. You've got one of the most walkable, charming downtowns you are going to see anywhere. You've got that mountain town vibe without having to drive all the way into the mountains. And it's a community built, let's be honest, of high income, high education demographic. There's a strong resale value, and there's an affluent buyer pool. There's specific people that want to live in Golden. And much like, as I joked, it being Baby Boulder, there's a big outdoor culture. There's a lot of mountain biking, hiking, tubing. Got to get up Clear Creek Canyon. I can't talk about Golden without saying that. It's the type of community where you want to get outside and you want to get outside year round. Now, cons of Golden are pretty easy. One, it is going to be the most expensive suburb, for the most part, of Denver. So if you're looking to live in Golden, and especially if you're going to be around the downtown Golden area, look for that price point to be on the higher end. You're going to pay a premium to live there. Another con, and you'll hear it from people, especially if they live near downtown Golden, is that you get a lot of tourist traffic. And that's not just like out-of-state tourists. That's people like me who like to get up to Golden and just visit the town. So a lot of your restaurants, bars, things of that nature will be busy. A lot of your trails, your mountain bike trails, I get up there with my bike, so I'm part of the reason you might despise tourists to some extent, but I'm from Colorado. I mean, you get it. And then Golden has some strict development challenges, you know, and some of its building. You'll see a lot of new development in Golden just because of the layout of the land. It's, you know, geographic constraints. A lot of that goes up Route 93, which heads up into Boulder. So you could be in the heart of Golden and you have a quick commute down into Denver, or you could be basically just south of Boulder. You could add another 20-25 minutes to your drive and still be in Golden. And so that is a key component, that your location can be a premium depending on your situation. But if you need to get to places like the airport, Denver International Airport, or you need to get to the Denver Tech Center, you are easily adding 20 to 30 minutes to your drive at times if you are living in Northwest Golden. A couple more to cover. We've got Morrison, Colorado. Now Morrison, home of Red Rocks, one of the most popular amphitheaters in the entire world. South of Golden, west of Lakewood, right on the Front Range there. Morrison kind of touches Lakewood and a little bit of Littleton. Morrison proper is a quaint little town. I think the population is under 1,000 for Morrison proper, but there's unincorporated Morrison, just a really great community. A small downtown area, like enough for a visit, not necessarily enough of a downtown where you're like, hey, let's go down to downtown Morrison for the day, but a really cool walking area, and again, close to Red Rocks. Morrison kind of gives you that mountain feel, again, where you don't have to get too far into the foothills, but you've got that privacy, you've got the tight-knit community. Again, it's a smaller town, so you have that going for you if that's something you want. And Morrison tends to have a lower sales volume. It's just kind of one of those under-the-radar places that, you know, people don't hear about. Maybe they look at Littleton, they look at Lakewood, they look at Golden, but Morrison kind of falls through the cracks. Now, cons of Morrison, it's small, so you have limited amenities. You don't have, you know, a ton of shops. You don't have a ton of anything. Odds are, if you're living in Morrison, you're heading to one of the other suburbs for a lot of your items. Not to say that you have to. I'm not saying you have to get on your wagon and drive, you know, 50 miles down the road to get to anything, but it's a small suburb. It has the amenities of a very small suburb. You'll have sparse public transit, and because again with Morrison, you're getting into those foothills, you're getting into the mountains, you tend to have higher risks for fire there in Morrison, especially in certain communities there as you get into the mountains, so be aware of that. Last up, before we get to our little mini areas, is Littleton, Colorado, located south, going southwest of Denver, south there of Lakewood. Lakewood and Littleton butt up against each other. And a lot of these suburbs are huge. I mean, Arvada has a lot of size to it. Lakewood, very large. Littleton among those. So when you look up Littleton on Google, it's going to give you this little area that has kind of downtown Littleton as a focus point. Unincorporated Littleton, massive. Keeps spreading farther and farther west. Areas like Columbine, Bomar, Ken Caryl, and we'll talk about Ken Caryl a bit as well. But let's start with downtown Littleton as our biggest pro, because as you've clearly seen, I love a good downtown, and that's why I think like Arvada, Golden, Littleton, they're fantastic towns for that reason. Downtown Littleton, about 6 or 7 blocks of shops and coffee shops, and really an area that you could spend a day in. It's pretty fantastic. Great light rail access right there. Littleton, like a lot of these western suburbs, a lot of great parks. You've got Hudson Gardens not too far away, which is just a great outdoor venue to get out, see some wildlife. The mountains in the background. So, these western suburbs, that close mountain access. We could talk about, again, your location. Easy access to Denver, easy access to the tech center, easy access to get over to the mountains. That is definitely going to be a reoccurring theme of the western suburbs. Littleton will have a lot of different options for housing. One thing of note within Littleton is that you will see a lot more new construction. So again, you'll see some new construction in Arvada, in Wheat Ridge, not so much in Lakewood, and then down into Littleton. And Littleton will also have probably one of the biggest new construction developments, that being Sterling Ranch. Now, This is where we talk about, you have downtown Littleton and areas around it where you have probably 15 to 20 minute access to get up into Denver. You can get to the city pretty quick and you can get to the mountains pretty fast. Then you get into areas like a Sterling Ranch, which is south of Chatfield Reservoir, and all of a sudden your drive to Denver, really with any type of traffic, could be as much of an hour. So you could have a distinctly different location experience while still living in Littleton. Another pro is certainly price point. Certain areas of Littleton will have better price points than Lakewood, certainly than Golden. And I kind of gave away my first con, and that was the geographical sprawl of Littleton. So if you want to live in the suburbs, there are some great, and I mean suburb, like quiet. You're a ways away from the crowd. Littleton is going to offer that. So that geographic sprawl can be a thing. Traffic on Santa Fe, you know, if you're downtown Littleton, could be a thing. Getting into Denver, again, I got to give you some cons. Third, this is one of the few times I'm going to talk about schools, and very briefly, is the districts. So Littleton is primarily covered by Littleton Public Schools, but there are areas of Littleton that are covered by Jeffco Schools and Denver County. So just to be aware of that. And then, as much as I talk about affordability, there are also certain areas, such as near downtown Littleton and Ken Caryl, where the price points are going to be a premium. So we've covered the key suburbs. I want to very briefly cover three specific locations. The first, Edgewater, which is technically a suburb of Denver, due west, just across Sheridan from Sloan's Lake. Edgewater is the smallest suburb, at least that I know of. It is less than 1 square mile. Great walkability along 25th Avenue. Really cool neighborhood. Obviously good location with Sloan's Lake right there, Highlands right there. You'll tend to see smaller homes, smaller lots, older homes built, 40s, 50s there. So again, with that tiny footprint, not a ton of schools there, not a ton of amenities there. I mean, it's a really small community, but certainly one you might want to check out. I will say one of their dilemmas there is the price point. Because of its location, you'll see smaller houses still selling for $650,000, $700,000. So that can be a challenging point, but absolutely one of those premium areas I would look at if you don't necessarily want to be in the city, but you want to be close to the city. So the last two I want to cover are neighborhoods within these suburbs, or maybe they have an overlap, but they're very specific areas. And the first is Applewood. Applewood is a micro neighborhood that overlaps Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, and Golden, and it is highly coveted. It's coveted for its space, for its schools, and its charm. So among the pros of Applewood are going to be large lots and mid-century homes. Mid-century homes are all the rage here in Denver. I don't know about nationwide, but Denver, they're big. So think quarter-acre lots, think mature trees and ranches with good bones, think great canvases for remodels. That's what I see a lot of people doing. They want to buy an Applewood home and they want to fix it up. I said I didn't really get into schools, but we're talking about this specific area. Applewood will be among the most popular for its highly rated schools, both public and private. And that prime location. People love the fact that you're 15 minutes from downtown, that you're 10 minutes from the foothills, that you can hike, you can head to a brewery really quick, you have really quick access to I-70. So Applewood is kind of its own little world, and it is extremely popular. If it's cons, if you're gonna say it, there's no downtown. I mean, it's a suburb, so there's no like high definition walking area. It's got a high entry point. Like the price points in Applewood are going to be on the price you're in, and if you see a house that you think is a bargain, odds are the house is perhaps a little beat up, needs a little work. And there are some HOAs or not in my backyard challenges to Applewood, and that's certainly going to depend on the specific neighborhood within Applewood, but you will start to talk about HOAs and that community overreach perhaps at times when dealing with it. And then the last one I got to talk about is Ken Caryl. Yes, that's how we pronounce it, not Ken Caryl. We pronounce it Ken Caryl. And that is southwest of Littleton. It's tucked into the foothills, and it is a master plan community with big nature and like this strong family appeal. It's kind of this like hidden mountain town within unincorporated Littleton. So your pros, you've got scenic living. I mean, you're backed up to the hogbacks and the foothills. You've got miles of private trails, wildlife. I mean, it is postcards. Some of the houses up there are fantastic, and it's got limited inventory. So, you can't be the pickiest there. It's got a tight-knit community. Yes, it's master planned. So you've got an HOA managing it. You've got strong programs. So you've got events, you've got shared amenities, you've got pools, tennis courts, equestrian centers, all of those things. And yes, in this specific area, you've got top tier, strong Jefferson County school ratings in that area, plus private and charter schools. One of, again, the biggest reasons people are there. Now, cons of Ken Caryl. Again, that strong HOA presence, master plan. They are going to be on top of their rules. Second, you're out there. Ken Caryl is very, very distant feeling suburbs. You're gonna need a car. It's urban sprawl at its finest. So you're gonna need a car. There's no walkability. There's no real transit access. You're driving everywhere, always. And then third, if we're gonna say it, I mean, you're kind of on the foothills, so the winter driving thing, probably a little overblown. But the fire risk in Ken Caryl can be a bit higher, and you're gonna deal with that anytime you start to really get into the foothills, you get into those higher elevations. Listen, I know that was a lot to take in. That's a lot of area to cover in a short period of time. Hopefully you found this helpful. Again, you have any questions about these suburbs, these areas, feel free. It's a perfect time to hit me up with a call, with a text, with an email. Know that I am always the person answering those. For more specific details, we're gonna have a link to some different information for you here, but also videos covering these specific areas in more detail. Until that, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. That was ranking the western suburbs of Denver, pros, cons, where I'd actually live. Until I see you next time, peace.